Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the void.
Ooh.
We are doing something a little different this week.
Yes, welcome to a very special Stay Doomed presentation.
We are choosing to forego our usual content this week. Big ol' spoiler warning up front for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
And essentially anything else in the MCU to date.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just putting a blanket spoiler warning because I don't know exactly what we're going to discuss. And spoiler also for any Marvel movie, even not in the MCU to date.
Yes.
X-Men, Fantastic Four, anything. Anything's on the table.
Yes.
So,
who are you?
I am Laura Prince, and with me as always is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Get your special sock together, nerds.
Yes, so we are doing... we're going to be recapping Deadpool and Wolverine this week. This wasn't what we were planning to do,
Nope.
But after seeing the film, we were leaving and kind of going, this would be a good Stay Doomed.
It's very much a Stay Doomed movie for us. And I said that in our Discord, and no one really knew what to make of that statement. Because I was like, this is a very Stay Doomed movie. And the response I got was, really? I thought it was good.
Yes, which is interesting, because even with it being our Discord, it doesn't mean it was a failure.
No.
These never mean that they were a failure. It means that for whatever reason, they didn't happen twice. And I don't think a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine could ever quite happen again.
I mean, the overall through line of Wolverine and Deadpool, because I say it backwards for some reason, is what happens to a doomed franchise.
Yeah, it's what happens when something has been doomed. Where does it go? What happens to it?
And yeah, in watching it, I actually got pretty emotional watching this film a few times.
I teared up during the end credits, believe it or not.
Yes, absolutely. So we thought we would just dive into this one because it had some very Stay Doomed adjacent themes. And we wanted to break it down and kind of give our thoughts because I think our thoughts are going to be different than most.
Yes.
I think we're going to have a very unique take on Wolverine and Deadpool. Again, I don't know why I say it backwards. So let's just jump into this film.
We open with the voiceover about how Deadpool how it was pretty much openly promised in the marketing for this film that it wouldn't dishonor the legacy of the film Logan.
Yes, it's very interesting because Logan was incredible. You have not seen Logan.
No.
But Logan was a phenomenal film. And like the perfect ending to Wolverine. And as excited as I was for Deadpool and Wolverine, it's hard to hear that Wolverine's coming back after that great send-off. It's kind of like when Ric Flair had another match. It was like, no, you had the perfect ending. What are you doing?
So, they even acknowledged this in the voiceover, in the opening voiceover, and we see Logan's grave from the end of Logan.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna lie, I straight up thought Deadpool was gonna piss on it.
I thought he was going to be on his grave as well.
What happens next is not better.
Yeah, so he says, like, I know a lot of you know the title of the movie, and you're wondering, how are we not going to disrespect Logan's legacy? We are. We're going to disrespect it.
And so it's him digging up Logan's body, assuming he's not really dead.
Yes.
And coming up with Logan's desiccated corpse.
Yes, he pulls out the skeleton remains of Wolverine, still coated in adamantium, because he just can't escape it.
Well, yeah, because, like, your skeleton wouldn't decompose, and adamantium probably wouldn't decompose very well.
Exactly.
Then the TVA shows up. So, it turns out the only Disney Plus show to have real ramifications is going to have been Loki.
Yes, that being said, we had not seen season 2 of Loki before going into Deadpool and Wolverine, and I don't think we missed much.
No, I mean, I fell off the MCU pretty hard.
Yeah.
I saw everything up to Black Widow, pretty much, and then fell off after Black Widow.
Yeah.
Like, I saw No Way Home. I missed the entirety of last year.
Yes. I haven't seen the new Black Panther or what else came out? The Marvels?
Or Guardians 3.
Guardians 3.
Which, I love Rocket Raccoon and I just didn't get around to it. I think part of it is that the movie-going experience has been so diminished of late.
Yeah.
And 2, they also created the situation of Marvel has made too much homework.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons, despite loving Captain Marvel, that I didn't see the Marvels was I didn't see Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, I have like 10 hours of homework before I can go see Captain Marvel 2. And if I didn't get around to it, I just never got around to the movie.
Right.
It's an interesting thing because it feels like an unlearned lesson from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Because I remember we were on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. bus for the first few episodes. And then there was an episode where it was going to tie into Thor the Dark World. We were unable to see Thor the Dark World the first week of release. So we were like, we're going to go back and watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after we see Thor the Dark World. Life happened. We didn't make it appointment film. And 3 or 4 weeks went by before we finally saw Thor the Dark World.
Yeah.
And by that point, we were so behind in the show, we never picked it back up.
Yep. That'll happen.
And I think that's something that they didn't realize was going to remain an issue with the Disney Plus shows. I think WandaVision gave them a false sense of what it would be.
Yeah.
Because WandaVision was the first one, and WandaVision drops in January 2021.
Yes.
When
we're all in lockdown.
When a lot of us are still in lockdown, a lot of us are still... the vaccine's not widely available yet at that point. Maybe the first few vulnerable people are starting to get vaccinated for COVID, but it's not widely available until, March or April. Mm-hmm. And there is, at this point, very little else coming out for pop culture.
Yeah.
So, WandaVision broke Disney Plus a few weeks in a row.
Yeah, pretty much every time a new episode came out.
The last, I think, 3 to 4 weeks of WandaVision, it broke it every single week. And you had to watch it the day it dropped because stuff got spoiled. Mm-hmm. And that's something else Marvel lost.
Yeah.
Spoilers stopped mattering.
Yes.
But they mattered in this movie.
They mattered in this one.
So, all of this to say... you don't really... You can totally have gotten away with knowing the bare minimum about Logan.
Yes.
Because I didn't see Logan. I knew the pop cultural osmosis. I knew who Laura was.
Yes.
And that's all you really needed. Honestly, I feel like the type of nerd I am was more heavily rewarded. The person who knows more than they've seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a point where I feel like my idiocy is heavily rewarded.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, this is less of a MCU movie and more of a 20th Century Fox movie.
Yes.
That's the stuff you need to know to really enjoy this film.
Yes.
So
he digs up Wolverine's skeleton, the TVA rolls up, and then we hear that familiar opening salvo for our beloved millennials.
Hey, hey.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye, bye.
And...
Bye, place.
He murders several... He does have a joke about, oh no, Death by Day player, which is a good show business joke of this is an extra. Mm-hmm. This is an extra... This is not B-15 or anyone we've seen in Loki before. These people are chum.
Yes.
And so he murders a ton. He does promise he will not use his weapons.
Yeah, he doesn't use his weapons. He only uses the corpse of Wolverine.
And how.
It's an amazing sequence, intercut with sequences of Deadpool just doing the bye choreography.
Note perfect.
Oh, it's...
exactly like the video.
And to kind of show, because it should be stated that this is a Disney joint.
Yes.
This is Marvel Studios. And to show the contrast of Deadpool versus the rest of the MCU, all of this is done on a snowy setting so that you can see all the blood.
And blood there be.
Oh, what a great way to start things off is this just bloody gore battle. Lot of testicle-based offense.
And some rectal.
And some rectal-based offense.
It's pretty gnarly.
Yes. Until it gets to the point where he attaches Wolverine's claws to himself.
Yes.
Oh, it's incredible. And just as he hits like a Wolverine-esque pose, Deadpool explains that we need to explain how we got here. And we go to a flashback by zooming in on his ass.
Yep.
Incredible.
Which is apparently their, it's like a trademark for them. They call it like the back-to-back shot.
Yes.
They use it in the first Deadpool as well.
Yes, they do.
And I love that for us.
I love that as well. Quick disclaimer before we go any further. It should come as no surprise that there will be very few clips in this episode of Stay Doomed. It's still in theaters.
And newly in theaters.
Yes.
Like, we haven't even gotten what you call the punishment trailer yet.
Yes. Do
you want to explain that concept? Because we might allude to that a few more times.
So this is a strategy that the Marvel Studios uses in their advertisement, which I call the punishment trailer. This is when they release a trailer after the first 2 weeks of it being in theaters to punish those who have not seen the film yet by spoiling a big moment. The most famous punishment trailer I can think of is for Civil War, where 2 weeks after Civil War, they released a trailer that had Giant Man in it. Because they were just giving up that reveal in a last-ditch effort to get people into the theater, being like, hey, by the way, also Giant Man's in this. But it's also kind of to punish those who would have appreciated that reveal, but was like, I'll see it later. It's actually a way to convince you, oh, next time a Marvel movie comes out, I should see it immediately.
I mean, I feel like you said the last time they did it was Civil War. I think anything they did with an Endgame trailer coming out after the release.
I said that was a famous example.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say it was the last time they did it. They do it for every film.
So, we get Wade Wilson using Cable's time-traveling device from the previous film. We do not see Cable in this film.
Yeah, which was weird.
Josh Brolin probably just didn't want to do it.
I mean, there's that and the fact that he's Thanos.
Yeah, but he's so heavily CGI'd as Thanos, I don't think that would... Just because someone played one thing in the Fox universe and something else in the Marvel universe doesn't super matter.
Well, he does actually say at one point, Cable didn't test well with audiences. Like, it's just something that he slips in there to kind of, explain away why Cable wasn't there.
I mean, I genuinely think it's because we do not see a lot of the core Deadpool cast in this film.
That is true.
And I think Josh Brolin may have been kind of expensive.
Yes, I agree.
So, I mean, I think that's the real reason that we don't see Cable, is I think that he was expensive, and unlike Marina Baccarin, who plays Vanessa, she has other scenes.
Yes. To
kind of make up the weight for her only being in the Earth 10,005 scenes.
Yes.
So Wade Wilson goes to the quote-quote sacred timeline, Earth 616, the MCU Earth, and has a job interview with Happy Hogan.
Yes, Happy Hogan is there, and it's a great emotional scene where Wade is kind of pouring his heart out, saying, I want to use my gifts for good. I need this. I want to matter. And as he's really pouring his heart out, he says, is the big guy coming? Because I think I should save some of this. And Happy Hogan says, no, he doesn't come here for these things anymore. And Happy Hogan says, interviews. But Wade says, cameos. Which is great, because we are referring to, of course, Tony Stark.
Yes.
Because it is 2018, so it's before the events of Endgame.
Yeah, it's pre-Infinity War.
Yes.
Because it's also April. I want to say it's March or April 2018. So it's shortly before Infinity War is released.
Yeah.
Which is something that, again, a specific type of annoying nerd is rewarded in this film.
Mm-hmm.
It me. Hi. I am that nerd. It me.
Yes.
So, it's a very good scene. It's a really good, Jon Favreau gets a very good cameo in this.
Yes, I love Jon Favreau.
There's a little bit of good humor where they kind of talk about how Happy Hogan in the original comics really started out as Stark's driver.
Yeah, he's a chauffeur.
And every time we see Happy Hogan since then, he's been promoted and promoted and promoted. Mm-hmm. And he's hardly a driver anymore by like Iron Man 3.
Yes.
Much less in the Avengers films. And so when he gets rejected, he kind of bottoms out and he's working for like a CarMax type. It's a CarMax, but definitely not CarMax.
Yeah. We also start our through line of like, you said you wanted this because you needed it. The Avengers don't need this. We need them.
And Wade's desperation to matter.
Yeah. So that's going to be our through line throughout this whole thing. And he just becomes a car salesman. And this is an interesting take to be like, we haven't seen Deadpool since Deadpool 2 years ago. Like, it's been like 6 years since Deadpool 2?
Yeah.
And the movie to take the time to be like, Deadpool did nothing interesting during this time. Don't worry. You didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
He became a car salesman.
And he works with Peter.
Peter! From X-Force.
And Peter still very much believes in Wade.
Yes.
Who is also wearing a hilariously terrible toupee.
Yes, that he staples to himself for some reason.
Because he can still regenerate, and now it won't come off.
Yeah.
Probably.
That makes sense, I guess.
So, I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, it's very funny.
And so there's that part, and Peter still keeps Wade's Deadpool suit in his locker at work.
Right.
Just in case Wade ever needs it someday. And Wade's like, I'm never gonna need it. Like, leave me alone. So he and Peter are walking home, and it's Wade's birthday, and there's a surprise party.
Yes.
And this is when we see most of his friend cast.
Yes, so this is where we see Vanessa, we see Mecha Teenage Warhead.
Yeah.
Colossus, we see Yoki Ito. Am I saying that correctly?
No. Yukio. Hi, Yukio.
Hi, Wade. Hi, Yukio. We see... Blind Al, his roommate. We see the bartender from the bar in the first movie.
Who is definitely there because TJ Miller isn't.
Isn't there. Yeah, this is definitely just a way to be like, yeah, we're referencing the first movie. We don't want to talk about TJ Miller. Also, I found out recently that they hate each other.
Do they?
Yes. There's apparently an outtake where...
Really weird moment on Deadpool where he said, let's do one more take. And everyone was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then as the character, he was like horrifically mean to me. But to me.
Cathartic.
As if I'm Weasel.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So he was like, you know what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star. But you just, you do just enough exposition that it's funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie.
So he's riffing.
He did that, and it was weird.
Because apparently he did not care for TJ Miller.
And then TJ Miller, he turned out to, like, have some serious issues, which precluded him ever being brought back.
Yeah. Well, the other person that I want to say is missing is Domino.
I think that's the same kind of issue, honestly, of that actress being more like Josh Brolin.
Yeah, the same issue as Josh Brolin, not as TJ Miller.
Of the actress just being... Zazie Beetz has work.
Yes.
Like, she is steadily working. She probably was just unavailable for a cameo.
Yeah.
That's my presumption for why we don't see her. And also, she could also just be doing cool stuff because she's, she's still a hero.
Yeah. Also, I would have liked to have seen the kid from Deadpool 2.
The kid?
The kid that he's protecting throughout?
Yes, we don't see him either. Mm-hmm. We do see Depinder, which makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because he's from the first one.
Yes.
And it's just nice. And we see Shatterstar.
Yes.
Shatterstar is still hanging around. Mm-hmm. So we see these people who are Wade's chosen family, We don't see Cable or Domino because Josh Brolin and Zazie Beetz were probably busy, and we don't see Weasel because TJ Miller is probably canceled.
Yes.
So we have this very important, like, Polaroid that's taken.
Yes.
At this birthday party.
Because they do this good thing, and I think this is a bit of meta based on what happened in the second film. Wade says, I'm so happy that all the people I love are all together in this room at the same time. As soon as he said that, I thought the room was going to explode.
Yeah.
And they do kind of like, change the trope there. And nothing happens.
Yeah.
And I want to bring this up just because it's a small thing that I can't get out of my head. On the cake, was there an empty easel? Like, what was there was something on the cake.
There is an easel, yes.
But it's, like, empty, and I was like, I don't understand what that's supposed to represent.
I don't know either.
We watched some videos, and no one really talked about the cake, but that was something I noticed that I was like, that's a very, very weird detail to not reference.
There's a great little... There's some really good little character moments in this where Deadpool announces all of his... and he goes, that's all my political opinions on... And then lists every hot button issue that he can.
Yeah.
And then when the bartender starts to talk back, he goes, no. No speaking lines for you. And then somebody uses foul language and he goes, I'm sorry, Yukio.
Yes.
She goes, it's okay, Wade.
It's okay, Wade. We also need to mention the point that talking to Blind Al, that they weren't allowed to talk to do cocaine. It was the one rule. And to quote Wade, it's the one thing that Feige said they weren't allowed to do. And they do a bunch of bits on, like, slang for cocaine.
No, he has a list.
Yeah, it's like, you can't say nose candy, you can't say...
White Girl Interrupted.
Disco
Dust?
Disco Dust. Do you want to build a snowman? All of those.
Do you want to build a snowman is particularly funny because, like...
It's a Disney film.
It's a Disney bit.
What did you think was the person who prevented this?
I thought they said Foggy. Like, I thought it was a Daredevil reference. Daredevil was also a Fox movie. Like, I was like, oh, are we going to see, like... I mean, we didn't know what we were going to get into, and Matt Murdock has just kind of been showing up and stuff.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that you were like, oh, because Daredevil's law partner said so, we can't do cocaine, not Kevin Feige, the guy in charge of the MCU.
I just misheard it.
I know, I thought it was funny. No, I think it's funny. Wade blows out a candle to make a wish, and the moment that happens, there's a knock on his door.
It's the TVA.
Who Wade thinks are strippers.
Yes. He kind of does, like, a very, like, responsible thing, and we also established during this, Wade and Vanessa have broken up.
Yes, that's very important, which I think is such a weird choice to have them separated because they were so in love in the first movie. The entire second movie is about bringing her back to life. And for them to just be separated in the third movie, and they get separated off screen. We'll see a little bit of it in a flashback. I think this is such an interesting choice. Because I think that just means that we're going to need more Deadpool to really get the resolution we want.
So, he leads them all down the hallway because he doesn't want anyone in the party to be disturbed. And they, without ceremony, prune him, essentially, to take him to the TVA.
Well, yeah, they don't prune him. They don't send him to the void. They just kind of are like, let's go to the TVA.
And then he's like, ah! And then they go.
And this is such a good little bit. He meets Mr. Paradox.
Mm-hmm.
And the basic bit of the plot is Deadpool immediately says, I know I did a bunch of time travel. And I messed with the timeline. And I'm sorry, but it needed to happen. And I destroyed it. Cable's time travel.
And they went, oh, we literally don't care.
It's like, yeah, we don't care. It has nothing to do with that. The issue is we wanted to bring you on to this new timeline. And they're still hiding the truth of the matter at this point. But it's so interesting that The opening discussion with Deadpool is, the things you did in the last movie do not matter. Our job is to make sure time travel doesn't happen. You did it, and it doesn't matter. That's how worthless you are.
Yeah, like...
And it's not said that way, but that's like the subtext of it.
And the kind of like interesting element of the main thing he does is spares Vanessa. That's
Yes.
like the main thing that he does. A few other things that are mostly bits at the end,
Yes.
like shoots Ryan Reynolds before he does Green Lantern.
Yes, and shoots bad Deadpool in Origins.
Yes. But the main thing he does that is important to him is he saves Vanessa from being shot. What does that say about Vanessa's life? That it can be restored and it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, what we're building to here is Deadpool is being invited to basically join the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
And he gets a new suit and gets molested by the tailor.
We get a very good Batman and Robin-esque montage.
Yes.
Of him getting suited up. That does also involve the tailor molesting him. And he goes, your tailor's a predator. It's fine.
But he does great work. It turns out the truth of the matter is Logan is his timeline's anchor character. And without him, his timeline is slowly dying.
Yes. Now, logically, it would take thousands of years for the timeline to die. But Mr. Paradox is getting impatient. And he wants to kill the timeline in 3 days.
Yeah, he wants to be more efficient. So he's going to use something called a Time Ripper plot device to just extinguish this timeline. So basically, he's saving Deadpool, bringing him to the sacred timeline, and getting rid of Wade's entire world. All of his friends, everything that's ever happened in that timeline will no longer matter and disappear. All because Logan is dead.
Yes.
The weight of that statement is so heavy.
Yeah.
Because it's basically saying the entire Fox library, worthless. Except for Wolverine. Like, none of that matters. Except for Wolverine. And this is basically meta commentary of Disney buying 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, they wanted the intellectual property, but they didn't want those actual films.
Yeah, so it's just like, okay, we'll buy you. Ooh, Deadpool we'll take him.
Yeah, we
We'll
can do
bring
something
him-
with Deadpool.
We'll pluck him out of this, but the rest of this we'll just bury. And it's not important, and it will never be involved in the MCU. So this is basically the reason why we're covering it.
Yes.
Because this is the plot of this is basically Disney going, stay doomed. And Deadpool going, stay tuned.
And the way executives will often take the wrong lessons from something. Mm-hmm. Like, Wolverine was the standout character of the 20th Century Fox X-Men from the I'm going to break everyone's heart now, from the early 2000s. But the X-Men First Class trilogy managed to get along pretty well with minimal Wolverine.
Yes.
Not no Wolverine.
Yeah, just
but
this flavor.
less Wolverine.
Yeah.
And I found that very interesting. Meanwhile, X-Men Origins Wolverine, I'd have to look at the Box Mojo. It probably turned a profit, but was bad.
Yes.
So it's a very interesting thing of executives wanting to just be like, kill it and start over. Instead of giving something time to breathe. Mm-hmm. Or letting something have an ending.
Yes.
Letting something have an ending.
Mm-hmm. So, Deadpool is now discovering that his timeline is going to die, and thus all the people he loves are about to die. The only thing he cares about. So he breaks Mr. Paradox's nose.
Yeah!
And goes jumping through timelines.
Yeah, he steals one of those temp pads.
In an attempt to find a Wolverine.
This part's fun.
What a great, like, little bit of just, like, comic nerd lore that gets dropped here. Because we get to see... The first Wolverine we see is comic book accurate Wolverine. And the reason
It's great.
I love it,
It's so well done.
yeah, is Wolverine, like, hops down off a stool, and with CGI, they've made him the proper height.
Yes.
And what I loved is I knew there were people in the theater going, ha, he's short. Not realizing, no, that's what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
They were just like, the idea of a short Wolverine would be silly to him. Or it's silly to them. So this is just, that works on so many great levels.
Yeah, and it's also really important to mention the music again here. This film has a great soundtrack.
An amazing soundtrack.
If you happen to be a longtime fan of Stadium, you might know that Noah's favorite movie is Back to the Future.
Yes!
This brings in The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News.
Yes. Because it's funny. I do want to bring this up real quick. The first, actually, before we see short Wolverine, what we actually see is we cut back to him using the skeletons.
Yes.
And someone badmouths Canada.
Yeah.
So,
The last TVA guy was like something to the effect of Logan was the only good thing to come out of Canada.
Mm-hmm. And he bounces a sword into his mouth and goes, get my sword and my country out of your mouth.
No, he says, keep my country's name out of your effing mouth.
Yeah.
Which, keep my wife's name out of your mouth.
Oh, you think it was a Will Smith reference?
Yeah, because he says, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth.
Oh, okay.
And then he goes, and my sword. And
Yeah.
then takes his sword.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, this is a Will Smith joke.
Because I mentally edited in a joke.
Okay.
Is when he says, keep my country's name out of your mouth because nothing else is good out of there. I mentally imagined him saying Michael J. Fox.
Huh.
And so when we then go to Huey Lewis in the News playing
The Power of Love.
Power of Love, I was like, oh, they're making Back to the Future references. And like, after I thought that, I was like, wait, no, he never actually said Michael J. Fox.
I actually thought he was going to go Celine Dion.
Celine Dion.
Because Celine Dion did a song for the second Deadpool movie. She did Ashes, which, if you've never heard it or watched the music video, banger.
Yeah, beautiful song.
The song is far too good to have been in a Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic Celine Dion song.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I was like, oh, no Celine Dion, just a sword in my mouth. Oh, it's a Will Smith joke. Okay. And then we get this montage, and we get a lot of comic book references.
Yes, we get Patch Wolverine where he has one eye. We get when he's crucified. We have crucified Wolverine. We didn't get the wanted poster scene, which is what I was kind of waiting for, where all of the X-Men are behind them and it says like wanted, captured, dead.
I think we don't get that for a reason.
Yeah.
I think because of what we find out about the Wolverine we do end up with, I think they didn't want to use that one.
That makes sense. But we see a bunch of different versions of Wolverine.
Yes.
Until he finds one drunk at a bar.
Yes.
Which I honestly thought was
going to be first class Wolverine.
Going to be first class Wolverine, and I thought he was just going to turn and say, like, go F yourself.
Yeah, I also thought that was going to happen.
Or it was Origins Wolverine, because that's how the first movie ended, where he's like, I'm drinking to remember. But it's not. It's a completely different Wolverine.
Yes, he's been called in, like, promotional materials, the worst Wolverine.
The worst Wolverine. And basically, he gets him really, really drunk, drags him back to the TVA, and basically says, look,
got your Wolverine.
I got a Wolverine. We have a new anchor character now. And the TVA is just like, that's not how it works, stupid.
Yes.
And that's the worst one. That's the worst Wolverine. Wow, you're dumb.
During the prior thought, when Deadpool is preening in his suit at the TVA, we do meet a specific TVA employee.
Oh, that
Who's-
gives him the F me eyes.
Yeah, who is just kind of like making star eyes at Deadpool as the opening strains of Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls play.
Yes.
And we'll see this character throughout. He will be helping Deadpool and Wolverine throughout. Deadpool and Paradox have an argument.
Yes. And this leads to Deadpool and Wolverine both getting pruned and sent to the Void. Once they crash into the Void, they land amongst the 20th Century Fox logo that is just fallen and just half buried in the sand.
There's a lot of things that we kind of see. Like, we see what looks like a helicarrier.
Yes.
We see what kind of looks like Avengers Tower.
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what it is. But
It kind of looks like
something
it.
similar.
It's
to
not
that.
important.
Yeah. And
Deadpool makes a number of Mad Max Fury Road jokes
yes.
as they see people approach in, let's be honest, what really looks like a Mad Max Fury Road caravan.
Yes.
Like, I'm surprised it didn't have people on the poles going like, wee!
Yeah. And that's when they look to the sky, and on like a antenna tower, there is a hooded figure who leaps down with a beautiful superhero landing.
Which Deadpool makes sure to mention.
Yes. And takes the hood off to reveal
Actor Chris Evans.
Chris Evans. I was like, oh yeah.
And he's wearing blue.
Yes.
And Deadpool fanboys.
Yes.
Hard. And Wolverine's like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yes, and as they are being encircled by these Mad Max people, along with people like Pyro and Toad from past
Sabretooth.
Sabretooth?
Sabretooth's an important one.
Yeah. So the three of them are now surrounded by this caravan, and Chris Evans is ready to fight alongside Deadpool and Wolverine in a team we've never seen before. And he's about to give like a big speech, and Deadpool is getting very excited because he's going to say Avengers Assemble.
Yes.
And he says flame on. And it's actually Johnny Storm. It is actually the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four movie. And when that reveal happened, my first thought was, oh my god, I can't believe I didn't see that coming. Because I was like, that's so obvious, but it's so funny. And Laura leaned over to me and went, you got your wish. Mm-hmm. Because this was a thing I had almost exactly wished for.
Yeah, like, you didn't have the exact context, but you were like, I want to see Chris Evans, I want to see this misdirect, and then I want to see him go flame on.
Yes.
Like, you had exactly wanted it.
I'd exactly
And you
pitched
actually even-
and forgot this idea.
And you were like, also, it's okay if he's Lucas Lee instead.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I did pitch that part. I was like,
And then
"He's
I think
Lucas
you
Lee."
also brought up the losers, and I remember telling you no one will recognize that.
Oh, now, yeah, I'm remembering this whole conversation now. Oh, could you imagine if you...
Like,
I
we
have
were
a crossbow.
Like, I was driving us somewhere when we were having this conversation. Like, I can picture where we were in the road when I went, no one's gonna know who he was from the losers.
But he says, flame on, and flies into the sky, and shoots flame at Pyro. Pyro just sucks up all his flame.
Because
And he-
Pyro can control fire but not create it.
Yes.
So, throwing fire at him, he's like, sweet, what a good day today is.
And Johnny Storm just falls from the sky, ping-ponging down this tower, to the point that I thought he had died.
Same.
I was like, I guess that's
Like,
it for Chris Evans.
I thought it was the Brad Pitt cameo, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, oh, and now he's gonna die unnecessarily terribly.
Yeah. Like, what an amazing... The fact that they pulled that off and kept it a secret is incredible. We then get the showdown between Wolverine and Sabretooth.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds has said he couldn't believe that some of those cameos didn't get spoiled.
And Deadpool builds up, this is the fight. This is Wolverine versus Sabretooth. And they rush at each other like a samurai movie. And Wolverine just cuts Sabretooth's head off.
They cross, and then they turn around like they're going to face each other again. Mm-hmm. And then Sabretooth's head falls off.
Yeah, it just falls off. They're like, yep, that's also it for Sabretooth.
But ultimately, Wolverine, Deadpool, and Johnny Storm are captured. Yes. Johnny Storm
turns out is alive, but they are captured and being taken to Cassandra. And they are Mad Max taken through the desert. We find that Cassandra's camp is in the corpse of Giant Man, or Ant-Man, in giant form.
And we do get a lot of exposition from Johnny Storm about, like, oh yeah, everyone here is either food for Alioth or works for her.
Yes.
So Alioth from Loki is back.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do anything really any more than he does in Loki.
He eats things.
He's a threat to our heroes, but not actually one that actually does anything. That's Alioth's role. So we get to Giant Man.
Yeah, we get to Giant Man, and we meet Cassandra, who is the twin sister of Charles Xavier.
Yes, and she was pruned as a child.
Yes, so she's only known the Void.
Yeah, almost. If you did watch Loki, you could kind of think of her as a foil for Sylvie.
Kind of, yes.
Because they started going after Sylvie when she was a little girl, and Sylvie just kept escaping.
Yes, there's parallels there.
And I thought that was something, like, really interesting. Cassandra Nova is content in the Void. She's not trying to escape. She's the queen, essentially, there.
Yes.
And she has insane telekinetic powers.
Yes. Also, I just want to point this out, that Sabretooth, Toad, and Pyro are all being played by their original actors.
Yes. It's not Liev Schreiber.
It's not,
Sabretooth.
But we also see a lot of other characters we've seen before, but they've all been recast. We get non-Olivia Munn Psylocke. We get non-Kevin Nash, the Russian from The Punisher, who I just kept saying, is that Popeye? It wasn't Popeye. It was the Russian from The Punisher. We get...
Aaron Reed is playing the Juggernaut.
Yes, new Juggernaut. And I thought there was someone... Oh, the Azazel. The not Nightcrawler who can teleport.
I mean, Azazel was in First Class. Azazel is not, like, store brand Nightcrawler. I know,
it's just very similar powers.
Yeah, I can't.
That wasn't Azazel disrespect. That was just me explaining it to our audience.
I was saying it was a different character.
Yes.
Then I was trying to see. Now we also see Lady Deathstrike.
Yes.
Who is played by the same actor.
Which, to me, I find crazy because I never noticed her. That was something you explained to me later. Like, did you see Lady Deathstrike? I was like, no!
I mean, she has the same, like, big, more nail-like.
Yeah, instead of claws, they're more like sharp nails.
Yes. But she's there, like...
I never saw her.
we see her throughout any of the fight scenes that involve those people.
Don't remember it. I watched the whole movie.
Jason Fleming, who played Azazel in X-Men First Class, is not credited in Deadpool.
Interesting.
I almost think that it was just a motion cap stuntman.
That would be...
Because I don't recall Azazel speaking.
I don't think so either. Because I remember being like, who is that? And having to look it up later.
So I actually think that there may not have been an actor cast in that role. That role may have been entirely CGI. And perhaps an undirectly credited stunt person.
Deadpool will not shut up and starts talking about the horrible things Johnny Storm apparently said on the way to Cassandra's.
And they are graphic? I can't even attempt.
The one I want to point out, just because of how clever it is she can eat my cinnamon ring. The idea that not only can she eat his butt, but it would be spicy because he's the Human Torch. Like, mwah. Such a well-written line.
Like, but it does sound like Deadpool.
Yes. And Cassandra is so offended by this, as Johnny Storms claims, I didn't say that, that's just Deadpool talking. Cassandra rips off all of his skin, and he falls into a pile of bones and organs.
Yeah, he falls into a pile of gore.
Yes.
It's at this moment you look around your movie theater kids and go, who brought their little kids
Yeah, who brought children to this?
Because there were kids in our theater.
Oh, yeah.
There were kids I would have considered too young for Deadpool in our theater.
Absolutely.
I think people do forget it is a
Kids that were not alive when the original Deadpool came out.
Yeah, like if you were unable to walk or speak when Deadpool 1 came out, you perhaps should not be seeing Deadpool 3 in theaters.
Yeah.
And like, I'm saying like if you were 2 or under, because I think like 10, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if your kid goes to public school, don't worry about the language, because you knew all those words.
Yeah.
But the gore and the sexual innuendos are kind of a lot in this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
I mean, just that part when Deadpool says what Johnny Storm allegedly said.
Yeah.
And it all sounds very Deadpool-y.
Yes. Wolverine and Deadpool get away by finding a rocket leg.
Yes. Oh, the leg belonged to somebody.
So, according to the thing we watched, it belonged to the
Warmonger. Which is Obadiah Stane's mech suit.
Yes. I'm not 100% on that. That might be a reference to Deadpool the video game. Because the end of Deadpool the video game is Deadpool killing Mr. Mayhem or something. So some like D-list character by squashing him with a robotic leg.
Wait, that was the real Sinister, right? Seriously, roll credits. We're done here.
Huh.
So that was my first thought when I saw the movie. I was like, oh my god, is that a reference to the video game? Unsure.
Yeah, some things are so oblique that we couldn't even figure out what they were. I think these are the kinds of things that are going to come out over time when people have the ability to like sit there and stare at them in their television sets.
Yeah.
So as this gets closer to streaming or, you know...
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find more.
Or some yo-ho situations. I think we'll get a little more of those details when we're not just frantically watching nerds write stuff down and figure it out.
Yeah, I think I know what that leg is.
So, they escape Eliath.
Yes.
And they are in a cornfield.
Yes.
And a dog runs up to them.
Yes, the beautiful baby, known as Dogpool.
Lady in Red. Again, another just absolutely killer needle drop.
Oh, yeah.
It just plays the opening of... Again, this movie is for a specific, like... If you watched pop-up video in the 90s, go see Deadpool and Wolverine. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of, like, music choices. So Lady in Red comes on, Dogpool comes up, and Deadpool falls in love with her instantly.
Yes.
And it turns out she is owned by a variant of Deadpool named Nicepool.
Nicepool, who doesn't wear a mask because his face is pretty.
And he's also played by Ryan Reynolds.
And it's Ryan Reynolds with long, luxurious hair.
And he offers them a chance to go to the Borderlands, where the resistance against Cassandra is, like... headquartered?
Yeah.
Now, they don't know how to get there. He's like, oh, it's like 12 clicks that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But he's going to lend them his car.
Yes.
A Honda Odyssey.
Yes.
Which Wade made fun of when he was a used car salesman.
Yeah, he hated the Honda Odyssey.
What's the difference between this Kia and the Honda Odyssey? Oh, it doesn't effing suck.
Yeah.
And so they're driving. Mm-hmm. And then Wade and Logan have the fight they needed to have. Like the argument, the verbal argument they needed to have.
Yeah, so the whole idea is Wolverine is coming with Deadpool because Deadpool said that the TVA can fix Wolverine's world. And then in an attempt to like bond with Wolverine, he says, what's the first thing you will do if the TVA can fix your world? And that's for the first time, it's going from a thing that the TVA can definitely do to a thing that the TVA might do.
Because he didn't know he made an educated wish.
Educated wish, which I kind of want to just sit here and unpack that phrase.
Okay.
Educated wish. Because, like, it's not an educated guess. It's not him using logic to say what will most likely happen. It was him using the information he has to create the best case scenario, which is such a thing that Marvel fans were doing. Like, when we heard that Fox was being purchased by Disney, I think we all made the educated wish of, well, they're going to bring Deadpool into the MCU, right? And it wasn't an educated guess. It wasn't like that is a logical thing to happen. It is the most educated thing linked to our greatest desire.
Yeah.
And just the way those words, like it's a new phrase. It's not like educated wish is a, like, common idiom. This is being coined by Deadpool, and it so perfectly nails a Marvel, a nerd.
Yeah.
This is what nerds do.
It could happen, and I want it.
The greatest educated wish is what Patton Oswalt said on Parks and Recreation. That was an educated wish of what could happen now that Marvel and Star Wars were under the same umbrella.
It's possible.
Yeah.
We don't know, but it's possible.
And the ride is worth it if that could be the definition. Like the destination. It's such a good phrase.
Yeah. There's something really beautiful about it.
And
I mean,
the
entire Deadpool franchise was an educated wish.
Yeah.
It could happen. There's a chance. Ryan Reynolds could get to really be Deadpool in a movie someday. I hope the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie happens. Look, this footage got leaked. Maybe it'll happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. Maybe it'll do well enough to get a sequel.
Maybe.
Maybe it'll join the MCU. And then all those things happen.
Yeah. Wolverine then eviscerates Deadpool with, like...
verbally.
Yeah, with some of the most hurtful language of just, like, how worthless he is, how annoying he is, how...
I'm not surprised your girl left you.
Yeah, like, how you deserve to be dead, and the greatest prank that God pulled is that you can't die. But the prank's not actually on you, it's on us and anyone who ever has to deal with you. Like, it is so unbelievably hurtful, the things that are being said.
Brutal.
And, like, the performance here is so amazing because it's like, everything's behind the mask. So it's gotta be...
Yeah, you can't see the eyes, you can't see...
It's gotta be Ryan Reynolds, like... trying
energy
to, through the mask, like, just express this pain and stuff like that. And there's just this horrible beat. And then Deadpool just kind of looks up and says, we're gonna fight now.
I'm going to fight you now.
Like, it's such an amazing scene.
And he yeets Hugh Jackman into... Logan.
Yeah.
Into the stereo, which plays a clip of The Greatest Showman.
Oh, I was wondering where The Greatest Showman was.
Yeah, it plays...
I knew it was hiding
and then he
somewhere.
gets hit again to change the station. Mm-hmm. And then another just banger needle drop. The entire fight is to You're the One That I Want from Grease.
Which, again...
And it's diegetic, because it's playing on the radio, because at one point they hit the radio again and it stops, and then they move again and it starts again.
Yeah. And, like... this is the real fight between Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, we've built so much for this to be the knockout, drag-out fight. And I got chills. They're multiplying.
You better shape up because I need a man and my heart is set on you.
Like, it's like a perfect song.
Despite how dumb it seems like it is. It seems like it should be dumb. And yet.
Like, it is perfection what is happening. And just like the shots, like we get a shot of the outside of the car, and then Deadpool explodes through the roof of it and lands on the ground.
You and I looked at each other and went, the camera work didn't need to be this good.
No,
there's a few moments in that fight. Because one thing this fight does well is this movie never truly devolves into Marvel Cinematic Universe CGI noise.
No.
Like, obviously there's a ton of CGI in the movie, but you always know where characters are in relation to each other and what they're doing. And that's really encapsulated. This is the best fight scene in Marvel to me since the elevator fight in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
This compressed space where you know where everybody is. They can't leave unless Deadpool gets yeeted out of the car temporarily. Mm-hmm. But he gets right back in.
Because I kept thinking of the hammer fight from Oldboy.
Yes.
Where it's just like, we are tight, there's not a lot of places to go, and just we're ripping each other apart. And it's such a great decision to have these two characters that can regenerate fight in this car that can't.
And it can't.
This way we can see, like, the wounds of war, even though it's not on either competitor. Like, we see the car getting doused in blood.
Yeah, the Honda, there's a great moment. There's a coexist bumper sticker on the back of the car.
Yeah.
And it just gets very tight on that as it gets spattered in blood. And then we also see nightfall.
Yeah, because they fought all night.
And then daybreak. Mm-hmm. And they're both laying spent in the car.
Yes. Deadpool's tied up in seatbelts.
Yeah.
Because he would have just kept fighting. This movie. And here comes the moment.
The car is moving.
Yes.
They're not driving the car.
Yes, they get dragged somewhere.
They're unconscious. Mm-hmm. And they awaken in Scarlet Witch's temple.
Yeah, what an interesting choice to do this in Scarlet Witch's temple.
Scarlet Witch, who is not appearing in this film.
Yes, only as a statue.
Yeah, Scarlet Witch is a character who I feel like got done dirty by the MCU, and I hope they bring her back and fix that.
Yes.
So I actually was a little hopeful, like, Mother, are you coming? And Wade wakes up, and Logan is just standing by the window drinking a bottle of Jim Beam. Mm-hmm. And he goes, where are we? And Logan goes, I like you here.
Yeah, they had booze.
And you gotta figure, compared to the previous day or so, they're like, oh, there's beds, there's booze. This is not the worst place they could be.
Yes. But we gotta find out who these people are that dragged them here. And that's when...
a young woman comes out of the shadows.
Yes.
No less than Elektra.
Elektra comes out. And then... And, like, Jennifer Gardner being in this film, like, didn't super surprise me. I was just like, okay, that makes sense. What we're doing. All right, cool. Out walks Wesley Snipes' Blade.
And our entire theater had the same reaction of, yay!
I audibly just screamed. I was like, ah!
But there was just a general, like, yay, that's nice.
And, like, now we're, like, on the roller coaster of, like, who else we gonna get? Who else we gonna get? How else
and then the third person we get is so many layers deep of straight... Because the third person we get...
Oh, yeah. I want to just mention the quick misdirect that I get, because the first thing you see is a playing card. And I first think, is it Bullseye? Because I love Colin Farrell. So I was like, this is going to be great. No, it's a million times better than that.
Now, I thought it was going to be from X-Men Wolverine Origins, the same film in which Ryan Reynolds first plays Deadpool. A gentleman named Taylor Kitsch played Remy LeBeau.
Remy LeBeau?
It's not Taylor Kitsch.
No.
It's Channing Tatum, whose Gambit movie never made it out of development hell.
Yeah.
Can we just say Gambit might be having the best year ever?
It's a good year for Gambit.
Because Gambit also was a major, major character in X-Men 97.
Yes.
So...
It's a real coming out party for Gambit.
And he comes out and introduces himself in the thickest, most mediocre Cajun accent of all time. Who is your dialect coach? The Minions?
I'm going to try my best to say the line. It's polite to get permission before you drink up somebody's liquor. It's so bad.
It's so, like, marble-mouthed, but it's...
Because it's supposed to be New Orleans. Like...
Yeah, it's supposed to be, like, a Cajun accent.
It's not, like, foreign.
I mean, there's, like, a French.
Yeah.
Because he does have that, like, that kind of Cajun blend of French and English when he's speaking. Like, but... terrible.
It is awful. And comic accurate costume. Like, I used to be a Gambit cosplayer because all I needed was a purple shirt, a hat, and a vest and a stick.
Because you were doing Taylor Kitsch.
Yeah. But no, he's in the full weird head thing, metal neck, brown coat.
And
weird knee pads.
Gentle listeners, this is exactly how you're gonna find out who in your theater is too terminally online and too, like, into movies. Because if somebody in your theater goes, oh my god, they are in a small group of us who are way too online. Because the scream that I scrumped.
Yes.
Because the way everyone else in the theater was like, Blade! I went, oh! Because it was just, like, such a good reveal to a specific type of dork. Me.
And, like, they lean on it because both Blade and Elektra talk about being pruned.
Yes.
And Gambit, Channing Tatum, talks about how he thinks he was born here. And Deadpool actually says, like, were you ever really even Gambit, or did you just wish it really, really hard?
Which is an especially terrible thing to come out of Ryan Reynolds, considering for the longest time he just wished Deadpool really, really hard.
Yes. This moment is so incredible. Like, I'm going to need to spend some time here with this moment. Because then we also get our final cameo team member, which is Lara X-23.
Yes.
We had speculated.
She was not that big of a reveal because they'd already...
She was in the trailer.
They dumped her off in the final trailer.
Mm. But the formation of this team is so amazing.
Yeah.
And I might legitimately get choked up talking about this. You and I had speculated about some ideas of who might pop up in this.
Yes.
And we discussed the idea of Taylor Swift as Dazzler. We discussed, like, Solar Man.
Yes.
And because in the past, the kind of joke of Deadpool is we don't have that big of a budget. We are getting the throwaway cast-offs.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting teenage Mecha Warhead.
This whole mansion only has 3 X-Men in it.
Yeah. It's almost like Fox couldn't
afford any more X-Men.
So I was expecting that. I was expecting Solar Man and stuff like that. But it is purely the Fox cinematic universe coming together.
Yeah.
Like they never could in their films.
Yeah. The chance they never got.
They say things like, we've had others come through here. The Punisher died here.
And then Deadpool goes, which one?
Which one? There's a lot of them. Quicksilver died here. The Daredevil died here.
And then Deadpool turns to Elektra and goes, I'm so sorry. And she goes, it's fine.
It's fine.
Which is a great little...
What a great joke. But Deadpool now has to rally these troops to be like, you can get us, with your help, you can get us back to our world and we'll save our timeline. This is a chance for you to do something important. And Elektra and Blade kind of have this back and forth where they're like, oh, a legacy, an ending.
An ending.
These are the doomed franchises of Marvel that were never going to get a shot and were never going to be important to the story of the MCU.
They were has-beens or never worse.
Yeah, they didn't matter. And the plot now is, with your help, you're not going to escape from here. Like, they make it clear, like, this is a suicide mission. You guys are not getting out.
Yeah.
But you could help us, and then we'll help everyone. And then everything we did will have mattered.
Yeah.
Like, this is a fight for the legacy of all the Fox movies.
Yeah.
To say, just as a glimmer, just a tiny push, because they're helping Deadpool get into it.
To be remembered.
Like, oh, this is the scene that I was like, we gotta do this for Stay Doomed.
Yeah, I mean, this moment, when you do what we do, is beautiful.
Yeah, for all the shows that we watched that we loved, like for the Fireflies, for the Push Nevadas, for the Rosies, for all of those that like truly had something.
The Heat Vision and Jax.
The Heat Vision and Jax, the Freaks and Geeks.
The Cop Rocks.
The Cop Rocks, yes.
The things that their failure was that they just flew too close to the sun.
Yeah.
Like, something I've always loved about what we do here is that we very seldom just hate something.
Yeah.
And when we hate something, it's generally because there's been a lot of cynicism and unkindness around it. But when these things were the things somebody loved, we always remember the human. And this is a moment to remember the humans.
Yeah. When I said this is the most Stay Doomed movie, and people were like, what, is it bad and stuff like that? It's like, no. If Stay Doomed, the podcast, was a film, this is what it would be. It would be those doomed franchises that have been cast away, rising up and having their moment in the sun. And man, did it get me when we were watching this.
It reminded me of one of my all-time favorite films. One of my all-time favorite films is Labyrinth. Surprise. The characters in Labyrinth that are represented through Sarah's childhood toys that are through her room have a phrase they use at the end of the film. Should you need us? Like, and this was this moment of like, the things that you probably grew up on. Some of these were your first comic book movies. Yeah. Should you need us? And Deadpool and Wolverine are like, we need you.
Yeah.
And they have that moment to like step up, and Channing Tatum gets to be Gambit. And if you're a certain kind of nerd, you finally get Channing Tatum as Gambit.
Yeah, that wish.
The educated wish coming true. And it's a moment that is so, in a movie that's so peculiar and silly, it's a moment that is, for a certain kind of person, unspeakably beautiful.
Yeah. It's, this got me so hard. Just the idea of like, yeah, this is Fox and their franchise is staking the claim of like, we're not part of that, but we matter. Ooh, it's so good. So let's go to war.
And they establish a plan, which is they need Juggernaut's helmet.
Yes, because the only thing that can stop Cassandra's
Telekinetic powers.
telekinetics. Oh, because it should be noted that
They do talk about Magneto.
Deadpool's like, oh, please tell me Magneto's here. It's like, Magneto's dead. He's like, damn it. It's like,
This is where we
where's his
cheaped out.
helmet? Where's his helmet? Ah, she melted it. Damn it.
I will say one of the things I did kind of like about this villain, is that she is actually really, really hard to beat. Unlike some villains.
Yes. I need to go back a little bit because we forgot to talk about Cassandra going into Wade's mind.
Yes.
And this is very Deadpool, where, like, a lot of silliness happens, and then we go into Wade's mind, and it's, like, horrible, and, like, pulling at the heartstrings. Like, a lot of the comics do this. But I think it's appropriate that we waited for now, because it is Wade talking to Vanessa, and they're clearly having problems.
Yes.
And Wade says, go ahead and say it. Say you don't want me.
Yeah, say you don't want me, and I will walk away.
And I will walk away. And she responds, you don't matter. And it kind of snaps Wade out of it, and he goes, she never said that. And Cassandra says she probably thought it, though. And to me, that moment so mirrors the Fox universe talking to the Marvel universe. Of the Marvel universe, of Disney basically saying, we don't want these franchises. We don't want this.
Yeah.
And them internalizing that to, you don't matter. But even though Disney is saying, we're not going to do anything with that, it doesn't erase their legacy. And I was like, I really like this because the battle of we're not going to use you versus you don't matter as being like a misconception. And like, this whole movie is raging against Disney in a way, but in a way it is a misguided rage. Because Disney doesn't decide who matters. They do. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
There's also a great, silly little moment where they're talking about how there's different versions of them. Mm-hmm. And Wesley Snipes goes, there's only one Blade, there's only ever going to be one Blade. Mm-hmm. And he just and then Deadpool just kind of looks into the camera.
Yes.
There is a Blade reboot coming from the MCU.
Supposedly.
But it has been delayed so many times, I do not think it presently has a release date.
I don't think it does either. I know it was supposed to be like one of the next ones. And the theory was that this was going to be the first MCU R-rated movie. Because it was going to be like, wow, a lot of the people who started it with the MCU are adults now. So let's cater to them. And then I think that plan just all fell apart, and, you know, Deadpool should be the first R-rated MCU movie. It should also be noted that there was a Blade television show that I believe only ran one season. Might have run two, now that I think about it. Matter of fact, I think we may have looked this up before. But it ran on Spike. And I specifically remember it because it premiered after a UFC fight. It did run one season?
Yes.
It premiered after a UFC fight, and the UFC fight went long. And they just had to constantly yell, Blade, the series is starting soon right after this fight, don't go anywhere. And that's just like the last 4 minutes of this fight is them begging people not to turn it off because they know it's supposed to be Blade, but this fight's still happening.
Because Blade was announced 5 years ago with casting.
5 years ago!
Like, Marshala Ali was announced 5 years ago nearly to the day.
Wow.
And a lot of people are taking that Blade was not brought up at all yesterday at San Diego Comic-Con as being confirmation that Blade will be further delayed. Its current listed release date is November 7th, 2025.
We'll see.
And it's gone through a number of directors and is, at this moment, theoretically still R-rated.
Interesting.
So, there was actually a rumor that the movie spawned that I read yesterday that, they're going to just redo it and it's going to be Wesley Snipes again.
Yeah, that maybe they're just bringing Wesley Snipes back, and that was them telling us, like,
yes.
I'm the only Blade.
So, I'm so worried about these characters at this point because I kind of think they're going to get X-Forced.
Yes. I'm fully expecting them all.
I'm like, oh, it was really fun to see all of them. It's gonna suck when they all die horribly in 5 minutes.
But there's a part of me that's like, they have to. They have to die. This is their story. This is their ending.
I wasn't uncomfortable with them dying. I just didn't want it to be crappy and arbitrary.
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you didn't want them to fly into power lines.
Yes. I didn't want it to be like when I said the X-Force.
Yeah.
In the Deadpool 2, when we get the montage of, like, all of them getting killed.
Yeah.
Crappily.
Gotcha.
I was like, oh, I know all these characters are chum. Mm-hmm. But I'd love their deaths to mean something and to be, in their way, an ending.
Yes.
Not just arbitrary. And this movie's so irreverent. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be horrible. And then we get a moment where they square up and we see this, like, Avengers-style shot of... Wolverine's in the trunk for some reason, and Wolverine rolls out of the trunk. I think to lead you to believe he didn't come with them.
Yeah.
But it is Wade, Logan, Laura, Elektra, Blade, and Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
And
they play a song that sounds like an incorrect version of the Avengers theme.
Yes, the scoring is clearly... we have the Avengers theme at home.
Yeah, it's like invoking it, but these aren't quite them. Like, oh, the music choices are so good. So they has fight.
And the 4 others are competent.
Yeah.
And I do like there's a little touch of it is Laura who gets the drop on Juggernaut, much like Kitty Pryde
Yes.
getting the drop on Juggernaut. We see Gambit do playing cards.
Yes.
And it's like, it's purple, and they explode, and they go boom boom, like he
Yes.
has promised. And at one point he throws them, they explode, and he goes bang bang.
Yeah, bang bang.
And I'm happy. I'm sports entertained. They all, at this point, have survived the fight.
Yes.
And Wade and Logan make it up to Cassandra Nova's lair, living room.
Yes.
And she quickly dispatches Wade and then goes into Logan's mind.
Yes. The effect of her sticking her fingers in your brain, such
Nasty.
a great effect.
Nasty. Is gross. But we find out that in his universe, all of the X-Men died. And he'd been drunk at the bar.
Yes, so he came back and they were all screaming for him. This caused Wolverine to snap and just kill everybody. Like, he was killing X-Men, he was killing mutants, he was killing humans. To the point where, like, he's the reason why humans hate mutants.
Yes.
Like, he destroyed his whole world.
There's a really interesting part where Cassandra sees an opportunity and tells Logan, I'm here. I can make the voices stop.
Yeah.
And she silences them.
Yes.
And he sits for the first time in years in true calm.
Mm-hmm. In true silence.
And you're like, oh, he's gonna turn on Wade. But he is just buying time.
Yes. Because during this time, they were able to get
the helmet on her.
Of Juggernaut onto Cassandra, which now all of her psychic powers are like contained in her own head, and she's like about to explode.
Well, that's not what's going to kill her. Pyro has a gun!
Also, Pyro has a gun.
Because Pyro makes a deal with Paradox in a prior scene that was that we kind of forgot to talk about because we were really obsessed with the cameo-laden scene and the Stay Doomediness of it. But Pyro and Paradox have made a deal for Pyro to betray.
Yes.
Cassandra Nova.
So, Pyro shoots her like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then Wolverine just kills him and says, not everybody gets a speech.
He just punches him. I didn't even know if he was dead.
I'm not sure he might have just punched him, but...
He's out. Like, he's not...
Everybody gets a speech.
He's not part of this anymore. And they have a conversation with her as she's, like, starting to die.
Yes.
Of, you know... Charles would have loved you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because she says, like, my brother loved you. To Logan. And she goes, he would have loved you too. If he'd known where you were, he would have torn the universe apart to bring you home.
Yeah.
And
she responds, this is my home. Which is a great line.
And he goes, Wade, take the helmet off. He wouldn't have wanted me to kill you. And Wade takes the helmet off, and then she creates a portal to send them home.
Yeah, she heals herself and then creates a portal, but not just any portal.
A sparkly Doctor... Oh, because she has a Doctor Strange ring.
Yeah, she had killed a Doctor Strange and opened up that portal. I want to just take a quick moment to explain what I think that means.
Okay.
In Avengers Endgame, or possibly Infinity War, one of the two, Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone to see all possibilities.
Yes.
In one of those possibilities, he probably appeals to the TVA, who prune him and send him there.
And he's murdered.
So that's the Doctor Strange from that timeline that I'm sure our Doctor Strange saw the fate of.
Yes.
Which I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
And was like, well, we're not going to do that plan.
Just like Wongers creates a portal, and they jump through just as they would have been eaten by Goliath.
Yes.
And that takes them back to Wade's timeline.
And we do see that up to this point, the others have survived.
Yes.
Which I do want to point out, that the last time we were in the Void, we see them alive.
We see them alive, seeing that they have succeeded.
Yes.
Which is nice.
So I'm very happy with that, because I was expecting them to have a terrible, dumb, arbitrary death at that point.
Yeah.
So they get back and they find out that Paradox is using this Time Ripper.
Yes.
So that he can end their timeline, and it's in the subway station below
Wade's apartment. Which has been a TVA base for a while. And then Pyro clearly lived, because Cassandra finds out from Pyro. Oh, that's right.
She sneaks up on Paradox and goes through his mind very graphically.
Yes.
Sticking her fingers in his nose and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. But we don't see what's going on in his mind, and Cassandra implies that it's filthy.
Yeah.
But she learns of the Time Ripper, and basically now she has a plan of using the Time Ripper on all universes and making everything the Void.
Yes.
I was like, ooh, that's bad news.
Yeah, nothing will exist except for the Void.
So Deadpool and Wolverine need to definitely put an end to that, but Cassandra has brought the Deadpool corpse, the
Deadpool core.
Oh, core, you're right. I mispronounced it.
Well, there's not a lot of Deadpool corpses.
Yeah. They are a bunch of Deadpools who were pruned to this universe. So now Deadpool Prime will have to face off against all the Deadpools.
But first through
Dogpool.
And he's very excited to see Dogpool.
Nice Pool quickly follows to get Dogpool back. It's Papa.
Because he has that moment of, oh, good. Because he kind of threatens Nice Pool with, if your dog ever gets out again, it's my dog.
Yes.
So I thought that was funny, because Wade clearly thinks he's just getting the dog back. We see all sorts of Deadpools, and every Deadpool that speaks is a cameo.
Yes. We have Lady Deadpool,
who is played by Ryan Reynolds' real wife, Blake Lively.
We have the head from Marvel Zombies, Headpool.
Played by Nathan Fillion.
We have Baby Pool and Kid Pool.
Played by Ryan Reynolds' real children. I do not know if she does her own lines.
Right.
Because her lines are filthy.
Then we had Scottish Pool. We have Soccer Pool. We have Cowboy Deadpool.
Did you recognize who Cowboy Deadpool's voice was?
No.
It's exactly who you think it would be.
Who is that?
All right.
Oh, that's right. It's Matthew McConaughey.
Because I did look it up, because I thought it was somebody doing a crappy McConaughey impersonation.
No,
it was actually McConaughey.
So this leads to a fight between Wolverine and Deadpool Prime against all the Deadpools. This is the part from the trailer where you see the foot joke.
Yes.
In the background. I forget the guy's name.
Rob Liefeld.
Who can't draw feet. And this is the Like a Prayer sequence.
Yes, it's fantastic.
And the trailer cuts off right before this unbelievable moment where Wolverine, who has been in the yellow and blue costume this whole time, reaches back and pulls on the mask.
Pulls on the cowl that we've never seen.
Oh my god, they finally did it.
There is a great moment where, right before the big battle, where they use Nicepool as a human shield.
Oh yes, and it turns out he doesn't regenerate.
Deadpool's like, how long does it take you to regenerate? And Nicepool goes, regenerate? And they're like, oh no.
Oh no.
And Wolverine chooses to use a different shield with much more effect. Dogpool. Because none of the Deadpools will shoot her.
Yes.
Like, he just walks by holding the dog, and no one even considers shooting Logan. Because no one wants to take the risk of harming Dogpool.
Yeah, Dogpool's the best.
So then they kind of go like, go away, girl, we don't want you to see this. And she runs away. And then we get the Like a Prayer sequence.
Yes. And
another very well done fight scene.
Yes. It's like a prayer because throughout the entire film, Deadpool is referring to himself as Marvel Jesus.
Yep.
The one that will save us all. They then fight through a bus, which is very much like the next step of fighting in a car, which I found very interesting. Like, it starts in a car, it moves up to a bus, later we'll be in a train station.
Yep.
It's very vehicle-based combat.
And it's another good, like, we're in a single location so we roughly know where everybody is. And there's a specific ad on the side of the bus.
On the side of the bus, there's an ad with Stan Lee in it. So there's your Stan Lee cameo as well.
And you just have that moment of, like, in this very silly moment, you have that moment of, like, oh, that's right. The only thing that was consistent in every Marvel movie, including Fox, including Sony, which also includes Ghost Rider, by the way. I did look it up because I was like, why didn't we get a new Ghost Rider? He's Sony.
Oh, okay.
Stan Lee was always there. So I did like that we got to make sure we had that little moment.
Yeah. So they fight through the bus. They both burst out the back of the bus and hit like a cool pose. And Deadpool like stumbles because he's Deadpool.
And he goes, oh, that's going to be the only thing anybody remembers.
So after all these acts of violence against all these Deadpools, the Deadpools start to regenerate again.
Because turns out only Nicepool didn't regenerate.
And just then, arriving on bicycle, dressed as Deadpool, is Peter.
And Peter's like, no, he's with me.
And everyone's like, oh, hi, Peter.
And Peter gets swarmed adoringly by the other Deadpools. And Peter goes, every Deadpool has a Peter.
Yes.
So Peter gets to come in and save the day in a way that is just like very poignant and cute and sweet.
Yeah, and wholesome. And all the Deadpools swarm Peter, and that gives Deadpool Prime and Wolverine the chance to head down into the subway tunnels.
And this is when we get that last bit of exposition, essentially.
Yes.
Which is that Cassandra's going to use the Time Ripper. And the only chance they have to save everything is for one of them to go down there and complete the circuit between matter and antimatter.
Yes.
Which will kill them.
Will vaporize them. So they will be atomized.
Like, for real kill them, not just...
So it's real hard to heal when your atoms aren't together.
Yes.
So they are walking towards this door, and they have a bit of a discussion about who's going to do it.
Yes. But they're both arguing in favor of themselves doing it.
And Wolverine eventually convinces Deadpool that his world is ruined. Deadpool still has people here that he cares about.
Yes.
He should be with them. Wolverine's going to do it. And they open the door, and Deadpool attacks him and locks him out.
Yes. And it's... Deadpool then immediately grabs the matter, or the antimatter. It literally doesn't matter which one. Pulls it out, and then starts trying to crawl toward the other one.
Yes.
With everything he's got.
As Wolverine is banging on the door, a la Kirk and Spock. Except things are like looking more and more dire. The timeline's losing stability. And Wolverine has to burst through. And they do it together.
Yes.
So they are standing with their arms across in the Jesus Christ pose.
Yep.
Combining matter with antimatter, taking the energy away from the Time Ripper.
To like a prayer still.
To like a prayer, destroying Cassandra in the process of all of this matter and antimatter. I
know you mentioned like, oh, this is when it kind of becomes CGI. And I'm like, it's a lot of CGI, but it's very understandable what's happening, which is what I had been complaining about. Like, you always know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I really was fine with this part.
Oh, I'm fine with this too, just because I love the symbolism here. Like, there's a lot of, like, Jesus metaphors, yes, but it is Wolverine and Deadpool bridging the gap between matter and antimatter. The two of them together joining between the difference between mattering and not mattering. I was like, oh my god, it's so good!
Yes. Between relevance and obscurity.
Yes, it's so amazing. And through this noble sacrifice, they're able to stop Cassandra and save the timeline.
Dying in the process.
The head of the TVA, who I forget her name.
Hunter B-15.
Hunter B-15, who is from...
who is from the series, yes.
Confronts Paradox and is like, what is happening here? Paradox is like, oh my god, Cassandra was here. This is your fault. You told me Cassandra would never escape. Me and my men did everything we could.
Lie.
to do this. Like, I'm a hero. And then you hear Deadpool saying, I'm back from the dead, rising again like Jesus.
And Paradox simply yells,
fuck!
And then we hear, and I don't want the world to see me. Because we get that Iris callback, and it's just so delightful.
But like, Iris again, like, I just want you to know who I am. Like, it's the music's good, the writing's good, it's so great.
When everything feels like the movies, you bleed just to know you're alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then Peter comes in during this, and Hunter B-15 wants that.
Yeah, that's like they decide that they're going to be a couple, or by they I mean like it is implied by the film that they become like there's romantic sparks between the two of these characters, which is a very interesting choice.
I believe the theory is that he is particularly well endowed.
Oh. All right.
I believe that's like said in one of the other movies.
Okay.
So B-15 also arrests Paradox because like he is messed up.
He's done messed up. And in what I find to be the most surprising bit of this movie that, like, we as nerds need to discuss until the end of time is she says, look, your timeline's being sustained. Kind of like you are the two new anchor characters of this universe.
Yeah.
Your timeline's not going to be destroyed. Which means the Fox timeline is continuing.
Yeah.
As a separate entity to the timeline of the MCU. Which means, according to this, Deadpool's not running around in the MCU timeline right now. He is in his own timeline where Wolverine Origins was, where Punisher was, all of that. That's still over there.
And he asks B-15 if they can fix Wolverine's past. And B-15 kind of says, like, your past made you what you are. There's nothing to fix.
Yeah.
Which sucks for all the X-Men, I guess.
Yeah, it sucks for all. Well, they're in another timeline.
And he then also asks for mercy for the others who are still in the void.
Yes.
And we do not see what happens to Elektra, to Gambit, to Blade. But we do see Laura in the next scene in Wade's apartment with Logan.
Yes. Now, it is, I believe they say something about returning them to their timelines.
Yes.
So, with Laura being with Wade, that would imply that that is, in fact, the Laura from X-Men.
Logan.
Yeah, from Logan. We do not see Gambit, and Gambit would not be in that timeline.
Correct.
He would be elsewhere. It's questionable about Elektra and
Blade.
What timeline that is. Which is interesting because that would mean that that X-Men Wolverine Origins is on that timeline, along with Weird Deadpool.
Yeah.
So, there's just like interesting timey-wimey stuff there. And we kind of get a moment where Wade is with all the people that he loves, which now includes Wolverine, who I believe joins. Because he introduces Blind Al to Wolverine.
Yeah. And at the end, they're just in Wade's apartment again.
Yeah.
And, Dogpool is also living
And
with them.
Dogpool now lives with them. And there's like...
At the end, Logan takes Dogpool and goes, I'll hold the mutt, talk to the girl.
Yes. And Wade looks at Vanessa and says, like, I did all of this for you. And she kind of smiles. So they're not, like, fully in a relationship again. But, like... Because I believe at some point Vanessa actually says, hey, bud.
Yes.
Which is, like, a very
The
hurtful
worst.
thing for the woman that you love to call you.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like this moment of hope, but not resolution for Deadpool at the end of this.
Yeah.
Which I think is very nice and interesting.
They could get back together. I think they do. You know why?
Why?
Because making an educated wish.
Making an educated wish, indeed. We do not spend a lot of time with Vanessa here, so I think that a Vanessa-based movie that's more about Vanessa could definitely be in the pipeline.
Yeah, I agree. Like something more similar to the first one where she's more of a major character.
Yes. I know that there's a lot of people who think that she's Lady Death.
Yes.
Which I could totally get behind that. And they might just be saving that plot point.
Like maybe that's a contributing factor to their relationship falling apart.
I mean, one of the biggest Deadpool comics is his wedding.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe that's the next film.
And I think, like, it contributes to... She could have a lot of trauma from, like, knowing she died.
Yeah, from dying. So, that's going to bring us to the credits.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the credits, we get this very interesting video that is set to
Time of Your Life by Green Day.
Yes.
Good riddance, Time of Your Life.
And it is kind of just like this yearbook love letter eulogy.
It reminds me of the outtakes that we used to see a lot over credits.
Yeah.
And it's set over all of them. Fantastic Four. Both. Let me rephrase that. All three. Including the ill-fated Josh Trank one.
Yes.
All of the X-Men movies.
Yes. The Daredevil films.
Blade.
Yeah.
It's all of these little outtakes and moments. And we get an interview with Ryan Reynolds from a long time ago.
I knew that they were going to put Deadpool in this movie. I heard about it, and I was thinking they better damn well call me for this role, because I wanted to play it my whole life.
I start crying during this.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Because it is a victory lap for a group of films that, like, don't get celebrated. And no, they're not the best movies. Daredevil is a pretty bad film.
Yeah.
It's not great. They fight on a seesaw. There's some issues with it. But all those people still gave it their all.
Yeah.
And without Deadpool and without X-Men, is there an Iron Man movie?
No.
No. It is very interesting and very moving to just kind of see these characters that, were around the entire time I was growing up and was very excited to see.
The X-Men trilogy are such an important... They kept comic movies alive when the Batman franchise died.
Yeah.
When Superman's Returns didn't do all that well. X-Men was doing a lot to keep comic book movies in the conversation. X-Men and Spider-Man, I think, are the two most important trilogies of that time period when you consider effect on box office present day. You could definitely make the argument for the Matrix trilogy, pop culture influence-wise, in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But when you think of the ripple effect, I think that, which is funny because the X-Men trilogy was directly influenced by the Matrix trilogy because that's why they had to wear black leather.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting. And just the idea that these comic book movies walked so the MCU could run.
Yeah. And seeing, we see Storm, we see Halle Berry Storm, we saw Jean Grey, we saw both Professor X's, we saw this. And
we see, shots of just James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, shooting the breeze in character.
They're laughing and they're happy. And no, they're not the greatest films, but they're not the soulless cash grabs. These are people legitimately passionate and trying to create something special.
Because comic movies weren't a sure thing back then.
Yeah.
It was a risk. You were making these projects because you were making an educated wish that they could be something.
Yeah. It's beautiful and made me very misty-eyed.
Oh, I just cried. I'm misty-eyed now talking about it. I cried in the theater. And it's an elegy. It's a eulogy. It's the ending they didn't get to have. And without Spider-Man and the X-Men, there is no Iron Man.
Yeah.
They kept the machine going long enough for Chris Nolan to get that first Batman movie, which got DC back in the game. To get Jon Favreau, to get Marvel to let him make Iron Man. And without the Fox movies, the MCU doesn't become the MCU because all of the really valuable properties had been offloaded to Fox.
Yeah. I'm going to tell this story very quickly. Me and my friends in college, we went to the movies a lot. And for some reason, we thought it was really funny anytime we saw the Iron Man trailer to stand up and applaud at the end. I don't know why we thought it was funny, but we saw a lot of movies that had that trailer and we did it every time. And people would yell at us for doing that because they thought it was stupid. They thought it was dumb that we were excited for Iron Man because who is that? I distinctly remember someone yelling, "Really? Dark Knight, bitch." And that's how uncertain Iron Man was when it was first coming out. And these Fox movies really did keep the candle lit.
Yeah.
That lit the fuse of the MCU. And while their stories might not matter, their legacy will.
I saw the first Iron Man movie at midnight. And
Same.
I remember my friend who coordinated the trip forgot to invite me. He had bought my ticket forgetting that he hadn't talked to me about it. And he's like, "You're coming, right?" And I was like, this is the first time you brought it up. He goes, "Oh, I have a ticket for you."
Yeah, you're going.
Like, the assumption being that I'd go, and I just remember that first credit stinger. When Samuel L. Jackson says the Avengers Initiative, being part of maybe 10% of the theater that was still there.
Yeah, because we didn't know about stingers yet.
And just going, oh my God, they're going to do it. Oh my God. But
I remember, because I did the same thing. I remember sitting in the theater and everyone starting to get up and me kind of being like, I feel like we should stay. Because, like, I didn't want to spoil the movie. So I was like, let's talk a little bit here. And I remember the people getting up next to us and me being like, you're not going to stay for the credits? And then they left, and then that scene happened, and I ran up to them because I saw them outside in the hallway, and I went, you miss Sammy Jackson.
I remember that movie meaning so much in that time. I think I saw it twice. Because I think I then took my mom to go see it. Which, like, seems very funny.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like such a love letter to the fact that the MCU only got to be the MCU because Marvel had sold off Spider-Man. They'd sold off the X-Men. They'd sold off Ghost Rider and Daredevil and Blade. They had sold off anything they thought could make money, and they were left with the JV Squad.
Mm-hmm. It's weird to say that, right?
They'd sold off the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
They had sold off everything they thought could make a buck when they were, like, nearing bankruptcy.
Yeah. It's weird to say that. Like, the JV Squad, you know, Hulk, Captain America, Thor.
I believe they had, like, gotten the rights back for Hulk. Because there was that other Hulk movie with Eric Bana.
Oh, yeah!
So I think they'd actually gotten the rights back for Hulk first.
Yeah.
Because the 2003 Hulk didn't do all that great. But again, that's something that, like, we wouldn't have had the Marvel movies without these movies. And I think there's something beautiful about recognizing that. That, like, all of these hardly doomed. These were movies that did well. Daredevil did well enough for Elektra to have a movie.
Yeah.
Like,
and Daredevil's not a good movie.
The X-Men movies did well enough to spin off the Wolverine Origins movie, which didn't do great, but it did technically turn a profit. But all of these movies meant something, and they started something, and they kept the lights on long enough for there to be an appetite for Iron Man.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful... it's a thank you note.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ryan Reynolds writing a thank you note.
Yeah.
To the people that came before them. And I cried during this. Like, I spent the rest of the... We stayed, obviously, through the end, but I was sitting there going, like, if there's nothing else. Because I was half expecting there to be nothing else.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's truly fantastic. We left some stuff out, I know. We didn't really talk about the fact that Deadpool sees himself die in Thor's arms.
Yeah, it just didn't feel as important to talk about.
Yeah, because that's in the future. But, wow, like...
There is also a credit stinger.
Yes, where
it turns out Johnny did say all those things.
Did, in fact, say all those things. But... I haven't had a movie experience like this in a while, and there were definitely moments of this where I was like, I feel like the movie's talking directly to us.
Yes.
The people who do this, who jump into the void and see those things that have been pruned and bring them back into the sunlight for an hour conversation that it never thought it was going to get. So it really rejuvenated my love for this project.
Yes.
And like
I'm a little emotional, like, right now.
Yeah.
Of, like, knowing that, you know, I'm the variant picking through the void.
Mm-hmm.
Showing that, like, not everything here is garbage.
Yeah. And it made me think a lot of like the way we do our ranking system of like stay tuned. I think this had more to give, or stay doomed, in that like I think its ending was justified, but we never say something doesn't matter.
No.
And after all of that, join us next week for Fish Police. Fish Police!
And,
where can people find us, Laura?
you can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at staydoomed.
And you can also join our brand new Discord to talk about any of the stuff. I also feel like there might be some new listeners who aren't usually listening to our stuff that are like, oh, but I want more Wolverine and Deadpool stuff. Hi, join us as we talk about shows that ran one season or less on our Discord. Talk to us there. We've done like almost 200 episodes of this.
Yeah, if you're new here, this is not necessarily our usual content. We do a few other films you might be interested in. We do have an episode on Morbius.
Yeah, check out Morbs. Morbin Time.
We have an episode of Cats.
Cats, Dear Evan Hansen.
Do you ever? We're doing our best, guys.
Yeah, check those things out as well. And if you want to talk to me personally about the Fox Cinematic Universe, I'm at +2 Comedy on Twitter, and I'm TV's Noah on Instagram.
If you ever need to be reminded that you matter, I'm at Priorities on Twitter and Glitter and Glow Tape on Instagram. Until next time, stay doomed.
This was slightly shorter than the movie.